Ruthless Compassion is a podcast that shows you how to become fiercely kind. I'm the host, Dr. Marcia Sirota, and in each episode, I get into it with experts and regular folks about the things that get in the way of what we want. Things like addiction and mental health, isolation and loneliness, difficult family and work relationships, and the importance of self-care. I want to help you overcome the obstacles to living your best life, and I want to inspire you to become a powerful kindness warrior. Built a career as one of the leading bloggers on creativity. He guides hundreds of thousands of writers, founders, and artists through building businesses, becoming freelancers, and embracing their creative inner weirdo. Welcome, Jon Westenberg.
Welcome, Jon Westenberg, to the Ruthless Compassion podcast.
Thank you very much. It's great to be on.
It's wonderful to talk to you all the way in Australia. It's kind of cool how the technology works. And I found you, for our listeners' purposes, on Medium. How long have you been writing for Medium?
Sure. So I would say I started on Medium when the platform first launched. I signed up as soon as it was out on most of the tech websites and made my profile there. I think that was about 2012, 2013, and I've been blogging on the platform ever since.
And what is it about this platform that makes you, in particular, like to use it?
I guess there's a few things. The first is that it's got such a great built-in community. There's so many people who go on Medium to read and to find great content, and it kind of feels like Blogger or LiveJournal or MySpace back in the early days. It's just so active. We're still working out where the platform's going to go and what we're going to do with it, and having that kind of freedom to move around is fantastic for me. When you have an early-stage platform like this, you do get to have a chance to really impact the way it's going to develop and the way people will read content and the kind of stuff they want to read. And that's pretty fun for me. Another reason is that I love the simplicity of it. There's no complex editing tools. Everything is very streamlined and straightforward. When you're writing a blog post, instead of having to worry about how it's going to look, you can just get your thoughts out onto the page, format them at the end, and it doesn't take long to make everything look nice and shiny and pretty professional.
It's true. I like blogging on Medium for that reason as well. The article that brought you to my attention was a little while back, but it was about 6 mistakes that you made and how important those mistakes were. Do you remember that article?
I do, yeah.
And I really thought that what you had to say was so terrific. And I just want to run down the 6 points very briefly and maybe have you comment on them. You were talking about how you trusted the wrong people, how you made mistakes with your finances, how you made bad career choices, you made selfish decisions, you took the easy way out, and you worked too hard. And I thought, wow, these are very interesting mistakes.
I think they're pretty common mistakes that many entrepreneurs and creatives are going to make at some point in their careers.
For sure. Why did you write this article, though? Like, what was your main point?
So part of it was to get these ideas out of my head. If I leave them chasing themselves around over and over again in my mind, I will beat myself up over them. I'll feel bad, I'll feel disappointed, I'll feel stressed. And if I'm at a point where I'm feeling particularly upset about the mistakes I've made, I like to admit to them, just own them and say to people, yeah, I did these things. Make of it what you will. They made me who I am. But there's also the fact that so many other people have experienced these mistakes and they've gone through these troubles. And I kind of want to let them know that, I'm out here. They're not alone. Other people have gone through this. It's nothing to be ashamed of. We only get better at things by fucking up and making mistakes. That's the only way we improve.
Absolutely. I think that's a wonderful way of dealing with things. In my psychotherapy practice, I talk to patients about how you have to face the truth so that you can grieve it and let it go. And this feels like your blogging version of that.
Very much so. And I think I do that with a lot of my posts. There is a definite cathartic element to what I do. When I put these posts out there, when I write these thoughts, it is finding a way to work through some of my problems, own them, admit to them, and move on. It's very cleansing in a way.
Mm-hmm. What was it that got you into writing and blogging to begin with?
Yeah, so I've always been pushed to write by my mum. She's a big writer. She's been writing all her life, and she's always had this idea that if you really want to get things out and if you really want to, improve your own knowledge, you write. For me, the real drive to write comes from the fact that I had a major speech impediment when I was growing up. People couldn't understand me. I would stutter. I had a very bad lisp, and generally speaking, if I was actually having a conversation, I'd get this look of complete mystification from other people because they couldn't understand a word that came out of my mouth. And the only way that I really could be understood back then was to write. If I wrote down something, people couldn't miss my meaning. They wouldn't say what. They wouldn't just stare at me. So being able to communicate in that way has been very important to me.
I can imagine for you it was probably more important than for the average person. I imagine there was quite a lot of pain around that miscommunication.
Very much so, and I never had a great relationship with my dad. He always used to use my speech impediment as sort of something to make fun of me with, and he'd yell at me over it, and we had this constantly negative relationship, and it would always end up with that impediment being thrown back in my face time and time again, which made it particularly painful to deal with. And so instead of trying to become better at speaking at that age, I just withdrew into myself and withdrew into my writing and used that as a safe haven.
Don't you find that a lot of people who are in creative fields have spent a lot of quiet time alone, being very isolated but very, very creative?
I think so. I think we use our creativity to make ourselves feel less alone. And the more we do that, the more we realize that our creativity flourishes when we are alone.
Yeah, I really think that's true. But you're not only a writer and a blogger, are you? You have some other hats that you wear.
I do have a great many hats. So I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a writer. I'm a blogger. I'm a musician from time to time. I'm an artist. And I'm a life coach. Every now and then. So yeah, there's a lot of different things I do. I guess when people hear that kind of thing, they do struggle to see how it all works together. But what I tell people is I don't try to make myself some perfectly branded, cohesive image. I just explore whatever comes naturally to me and whatever I'm passionate about. No matter where that takes me, I'm just going to try to follow my passions.
Mm-hmm. Well, how did the life coaching come about?
I think it was partly because I am very open with my own life experiences. The things that I've done wrong, I will share and I will communicate and I will own. And I'm also pretty adept at finding the lessons in those mistakes. And the more I've shared that kind of information with people over time, the more they've been interested in hearing my own thoughts about their lives and their businesses and the challenges that they face, and helping them find the lessons in their own problems. So being able to find an avenue to do that has been really great.
So if I'm going to paraphrase you, what you're saying is by being open about your own mistakes and the lessons that you've learned, people were inspired to reach out to you and ask you if your lessons might impact on them.
That's right, yeah.
That's really interesting. And so you said you're also a musician?
Yes. So I spent most of my teenage years playing in punk rock and death metal bands. And as I grew older, I have kept up that obsession with music. So these days I do experimental sound collages, not really as anything to perform. I don't perform anymore. I don't release much music anymore. I'm sort of past that stage, but I do it as a passion in my private life.
So it sounds a little bit like there's an outlaw streak in you.
I was a bit of a rebel teenager, put it that way.
Yeah.
People wouldn't think
rock.
of it you wouldn't think of it to look at me, but about 10 years ago, I used to have black makeup and wear fishnet gloves and torn jeans and stuff like that.
Sounds like fun. There's some other articles that I noticed that you had put up on Medium, which I wanted to just touch on because I thought they were really interesting. There was an article that you wrote about what do you do when people laugh at your dreams. What compelled you to put that one up?
So I think most people are terrified they're going to be laughed at. Most people have secret passions, secret ideas that they'd like to follow, but the only thing that stands between them and just getting out there and making it happen is the fact that they are too scared to turn to their loved one and say, hey, I want to follow my passion. And they're scared because they're worried that they're going to get laughed at and someone's going to say, that's ridiculous. How can you do that? Why should you do that? You're not meant to do it. You're a lawyer, so you can't possibly want to write a comic book. Or, you're an accountant. of course you can't be a musician. No one likes to be laughed at. And we're taught that from a very early age. We're taught that on playgrounds. And when we're out playing with our friends, if you fall over, you get laughed at. If you are a boy and you spend your time hanging out with a girl instead, you get laughed at. These are things that are ingrained in us at a really early age. Don't step out of line or the world will laugh. When I wrote that post, I really wanted to say to people, the world can laugh all at once. It's not going to affect you at all. The world can just split its sides and point its fingers and say that you're hilarious. It doesn't matter as long as you're following a passion.
I like that a lot, and I think you're absolutely right on. I think that that's a big obstacle for creativity when you're worried about what other people will think, isn't it?
Mm.
Do you find that there have been some obstacles for you in coming into your full self?
So many obstacles. The biggest one is, what's a good way to put this? I have a commitment problem. That's a good way of saying it. I'm very good at starting things. I'm never terrified to start a new project. I am always just gunning for it. I know the first step. I know the first action to take, and I'm ready to go. My problem is I will lose interest about 4 days into any project. And when I lose interest, it's very hard to make myself keep going and to make myself find that passion again.
Mm-hmm. What have you used to help you recapture that passion?
So part of it is that, I think I've written about this before, I get mean. My idea is that you're never going to be fully passionate about anything that you do permanently. If you think that you're going to go through life and wake up every single day feel wonder about the career you've chosen or the project you're working on, you're going to be sorely surprised. So what I think is that you don't try to experience that passion every day. You accept that almost every day you're going to wake up and not want to do something. And you push through because every now and then you'll wake up and you'll feel alive and passionate about it. And I think that's something that I also believe about personal relationships. I don't think that that being in love with someone is a matter of waking up every day and looking at them and feeling a glow of love. I think being in love with someone is about waking up every single day and struggling to get through it because, your partner gets on your nerves or they don't do things you like and you just want to scream sometimes, but you keep going through it because you've decided that they're the one for you, and that maybe for a few moments every single day that you're going to have some wonderful pure love, and that's what you keep on going for. I think the same applies for almost any creative project.
I think you're right, and it's interesting. It's as though your difficulties with making commitments have enabled you to see the truth about it, which is that it's not every day a wonder. It's a struggle, and that if you're willing to put in the struggle, there's a payoff in the end.
That's exactly right. I think people believe that they're always going to make it to a point where things will make sense. I'm worried about my project right now, but if I can just get it to one level, I'll never have to worry about it again. Or I don't like the people I'm dating right now, but if I just find one more person who's right for me, I'll never have to worry about it again. But it's never really like that. You always struggle and you always keep on battling forward.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And it reminds me of the article that you wrote about hard work and how anything worth doing takes a lot of effort and a lot of time. Could you comment on that?
Sure. I believe that hard work is the only thing worth investing time into. When I was a kid, at a very young age, I grew up in the country, and every now and then to get some extra pocket money, I'd go and help out on the farm that some of our neighbors owned, and we'd help them with their sheep, docking their sheep and getting them all ready to be sheared, that kind of thing. Outback Australia, working in the blistering sun. And it wasn't very much money. We'd get like $15 a day for working all day on the farm. But we'd take that money and we'd make it last weeks, just that $15. And it always felt like it was a fortune because we'd worked so incredibly hard for it. I think for the rest of my life, I've always kind of looked at hard work in that way. You get out of it what you put in. And it's not just in terms of monetary value. Even if you've earned a small amount, if you've worked hard for it and you know you've earned it, it feels like so much more.
I think that's a very interesting thought. And it leads me to wonder, like, you said that you're an entrepreneur. Was this the beginning of your entrepreneurial mindset? This sheep talking activity?
I don't think so. I think my entrepreneurial mindset really comes from the fact that I am kind of a rebel, as you mentioned before. I have a little bit of a problem with authority. I don't like having a boss. I don't like being told what to do. I don't like asking for permission. All these things are requirements if you do want to work in a traditional career. For me, seeking to eject that kind of authority and seeking to just control my own destiny 100% is what's driven me to be an entrepreneur. And by the same token, I also think that anyone who calls themselves an artist or a writer or a creative has to be an entrepreneur by their very nature, because that's the only way to survive in any of those professions is by making them your own.
Right, and besides, you're expressing your true vision. So if you're a real artist, it has to be your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own passions.
That's right, yeah.
So what kind of things have you pursued in your entrepreneurship?
So my first company I started when I was 18. I went from flipping burgers at McDonald's one week to founding a music management company the next. It was a pretty great ride, actually. We managed some pretty big artists down here in Australia, and we put on some great tours, saw a bit of the world, made some pretty decent money from that, and it was a great experience. It didn't end as well as it could have, but I won't open up that old wound tonight. It was a great first experience in business, though, and ever since then I have just chased any business opportunity that attracts me to it. To varying degrees of success, I have failed a lot more than I've ever succeeded, and I can admit that. I've started tech companies, I've started marketing companies, I have sold little products here and there. It's always just things that I'm passionate about doing.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Brogan, a really good author, he wrote The Freak Show Inherit the Earth. He says that it doesn't matter how often you fail a business. The trick is to fail fast, learn, and keep on going. And that's what I'm going to keep on doing. I will call myself an entrepreneur for as long as I chase business opportunities and as long as I chase ideas.
I was going to say, one of my friends is an entrepreneur, and that's what he does. He does exactly the same thing. So I think that if you're going to be successful, you have to have that mindset, right? See what you're doing wrong and correct it quickly.
That's right, and I think it's also partly not letting yourself believe that to be an entrepreneur has to mean a certain set number of things. People might come to you and they'll say, oh, you're an entrepreneur, you must have a tech startup, or you must have this company or that company. But the fact is, an entrepreneur is anyone who is striking out on their own and trying to make money and survive on their own terms.
Mm-hmm. And, going back to the article that attracted me to you in the beginning, where you're talking about mistakes, and now we're talking about failure, there's an interesting theme that's woven into this business about being passionate and being successful. It's like you have to be able to learn from your mistakes and tolerate failure and learn from your failures as well, isn't it?
That's right. You don't go through life as a creative without experiencing failure. That's just the way it goes. When we put out creative work, it's an incredibly difficult process. Every creative has an idea in their head of what their finished piece of work is going to look like, and 9 times out of 10, what comes out is something completely different. And so we do feel that we've failed at expressing ourselves, even if other people think that we've won. And so we get used to this kind of failure, and we have to be used to it. It's what drives us. It's what makes us do better, try harder.
Mm-hmm. And I think that when we're being authentic, it's almost impossible not to fail because we're not trying so hard to get it right and to please other people.
That's right. I look at things in Hollywood, where a movie comes out and they pump $400 million into it, and it's a massive disaster, and they lose so much money on it, and then it takes so long to recover from. That's not what failure is as an entrepreneur. It's not putting everything out on the line with a huge overblown project without having any concept of whether it's going to work. We're not like Hollywood. What we do is we find ways to test if what we're going to do is going to work or not. We find the smallest products to make, the first steps, and we test our ideas.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the difference between, let's say, somebody like you and the overblown, as you say, Hollywood machine, is that Hollywood is definitely looking at a formula. They're saying, what will the most people spend the most amount of money on? Whereas I think what you're saying is that you want to do things that are authentic to you, that you're passionate about, that are meaningful, and where you can write your own rules. You're going to work very hard, as you said, but you're going to do it your way, which is a kind of the antithesis of Hollywood.
That's right. And I think it speaks to how well you can survive in a niche. You know, there are filmmakers out there, on the subject of Hollywood, there are filmmakers out there who can survive making only movies that they feel like making, regardless of what their industry tells them to do. I think that's beautiful. You know, if you can find a small group of people who love what you do, you can survive and you can make a great living and you can be an entrepreneur in that space without having to worry about being huge. There is nothing wrong with having small projects or having a small business.
I like what you say about that. Could you talk a little bit more about your creative community and why that's so important to you?
I guess it's important because support will make all the difference. I try to surround myself with creative people from all walks of life. So one of my best friends is a full-time bass player for a death metal band, and he spends most of his time touring the States and living back here in Australia when he has some spare time. But on the other side of the spectrum, another one of my close friends is an entrepreneurial lawyer who is building a legal startup. Now, these are two very different people, but they have so many ideas around creativity and around what it means to build your own thing that I'm always inspired by their points of view.
Mm-hmm. So I guess you all support each other, and it's not the particulars of what you're doing, it's that you're all going in a similar direction.
That's right. We're all driven by the need to make something.
And where do you think this need to make something comes from?
That I cannot answer. It's something that I was born with, I think. The first things I did as a kid would pick up crayons and draw and pick up twigs and try to make them into houses. I have always had this drive.
I remember applying to art school many, many years ago, and the person who was interviewing me asked me, why do you do art? And I said, because I have to. And he said, that's the correct answer.
I think that's 100% right. That's the same for me. I do feel like I have to do this.
And I think that if you listen to that drive, that's what really propels you forward, isn't it?
It is. And if I tried to ignore it, I feel like I would just be very unhappy.
And don't you think that a lot of people have that drive within them, but they do ignore it because of fear or because of obligation or these ideas of how they should be?
I think almost everyone has a drive to create. I think it's a natural human instinct. That's why we came down from the trees and started building houses. We wanted to make things. But people are told by their parents, hey, don't do that, go and get a job. Or they're told by their teachers at school, you know, there's not a good career path going down that route, you should go and get a job. And then they're told this all the time, so they get scared to fail and they get scared to try things and they get scared that they'll be shirking their responsibilities if they create instead of earning. And I think the really sad part about that is that I am convinced the most beautiful music that we could ever have heard has never been made just because someone told their kid not to follow their dreams.
Mm-hmm. Wow. You know, in that sense, being a creative person is a bit of a transgressive act, isn't it?
I think that creatives are themselves rebels. We're rebels because a creative person doesn't look at the world and say, okay, I accept it the way it is. They look at the world and they try to find a way to shape it into something new. That in itself is an act of rebellion. It's stepping outside the lines.
I guess that's why when totalitarian regimes come into power, the first thing they do is they get rid of the artists and the thinkers.
Exactly, and even worse, they try to create government-sponsored artists and thinkers, and they try to create an ideal version of what creativity should be for that government. And we saw that with the art schools that the Nazis set up, and we see it even today with the cultural programs in China.
Mm-hmm. That's really, really sad. You know, I suppose that you can't really be an artist unless you're true to your own vision.
I think you can't be an artist if you are prepared to dilute your ideas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what do you do? Here's another article that I saw. What do you do when people read what you've written and they go, nah, this is ridiculous, I hate this? You have an article about that. When they really disagree or when they get angry at what you say, what do you do, John?
Depends on my mood, I guess. Look, no matter what mood I'm in, and no matter how good I'm feeling, my first reaction is always to feel kind of upset, kind of offended. I can't help it. I'm a human. And when someone doesn't like what I do, it's natural to feel hurt and upset over it. But then what comes next is several different stages. The next stage is rage. I'm always incredibly angry that people have taken the time to not only read something that they hate, but go and talk about how much they hate it instead of just moving on from it. But the third stage after that is I just let it go. I realize that there's no way to change anyone's mind. I've been involved in enough arguments on the internet that I know you'll never get through to someone. Nobody wins. Even if you do win a shit fight, you're still covered in shit.
Right.
I like to just let go of these things. I've reached a point now where I no longer waste time trying to respond to negative comments or negative tweets or anything like that. I've got better things to be doing in my life and better things to be doing with my time. Now, if people want to hate me, they can go on and hate me. I really don't care.
And I liked what you said in your article, which is that you vent privately and then you just write more.
That's right, yeah. I will rant and rave to my long-suffering girlfriend, who gives me a very patient look and says, "Yes, dear, I know." And then after I finish ranting and raving, I just do the one thing that's going to piss them off even more, which is keep on writing.
I think that is the best attitude toward the haters, is just to keep doing what you're doing, right?
Exactly. You stay the course, because what they really want to do, the absolute hope that they have, is that they can stop you from doing what you love.
Exactly. And so if you just redouble your efforts, then you're sort of putting your thumb to your nose and going, ha ha, I'm not going to let you do this. Yeah, I like that attitude too. I always say that when someone tries to get me down, I just do it more.
Absolutely. That's my punk rock streak coming out.
So maybe I have a little punk rock streak in me too.
Maybe you do.
I was just wondering, what are you up to these days that you'd like to share with the listeners?
So my big new project that I'm in the process of launching is a clothing line called Get Mean. It's mainly T-shirts right now, and there's going to be some activewear later on. It's all kind of focused around slogans and ideas that are drawn from my blog posts. So, for example, the first T-shirt they're releasing is called Make Cool Shit, and it's just a T-shirt with that slogan on it, because I tell people all the time the number one driving force behind a creative should be the urge to make some cool shit.
That sounds like a lot of fun. How would somebody find your new clothing line?
Sure. So we're launching that at getmeanclothing.com.
So how do you say that? How do you spell that for the listeners?
Sure. So that's Get Mean, GETMEAN.
Super. And where would the audience find you in particular if they were looking for you?
Sure. So I am on the internet at jonwestenberg.com. That's Westenberg, Westenberg. I'm also on Instagram, and I'm on Beam, and every now and then I'm posting weird stuff on Tumblr.
Sounds like fun. And just before we go, I'd like you to share a call to action for the listeners.
How do you mean a call to action?
Well, what would you say that would be the most important thing that they should do now that they've listened to your interview? What do you want to send them off to do?
Okay. My number one goal for anyone who's listened to me or who's read my blog is for them to go out and start their own thing, start their own creative project, write a blog post, build a company, create a product, design something. Just get busy with your hands, get dirty, and create something new. If I have one mission in my life, it's to push people to build a better world.
I love that call to action, and I think that if everyone did a little bit, the world couldn't help but get better.
I agree, and I'm pretty selfish. I feel like if 1,000 more people created some great books, made some great music, and started some great companies, I'm going to benefit by having more books to read and more products to use. I'm selfish that way. I want to have cool shit in my world, so everyone should go make it.
Okay, well, I think that's a wonderful call to action, and it's really been a pleasure talking to you, Jon, all the way across the airwaves to Australia, and just thank you so much for taking the time here today.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been great to have a bit of a chat.
All right. Well, take care.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That was the intriguing Jon Westenberg, and I'm Dr. Marcia Sirota. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and review it on iTunes. You can also sponsor me on Patreon at patreon.com/Dr. Marcia Sirota. And please sign up for my free monthly wellness newsletter at marciasirotamd.com.